Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to AFTV. I am Marty and I am your host tonight for the live show after a very impressive performance last night. Please, guys, subscribe to the channel. Please get your comments in. Please get your super chats in. And I will introduce my absolutely awesome guest who is delightful, delectable, downright knowledgeable. Ella Semetna, the volcano of knowledge, coming at you with her football knowledge. Ella, the other half of the Marty Ella show. How are you?
Yeah, Marty, we couldn't do it without each other. Both halves, so they have to be put together. We're back. We're back.
We are back. We are back. The Marty Ella show.
Marty Ella show's back, people. We've got lots to talk about.
Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, after a very, well, some say not so impressive Champions League performance. Some say a very impressive 2-0 to the Arsenal. Good result. Points are on the board. We didn't concede a goal. 11 goals scored. 1 conceded. Was a free kick. None from open play. I mean, look, it's not a bad time, if I'm honest with you, to really pretty be an Arsenal fan. What are your I will go into the Forest game as well quickly, but that to me seems an absolute age away, just because of last night and everything that happened. But talk to me, Ella.
The Forest game was actually such a lovely game to be at as a fan. Like, just pure enjoyment, really. Just like good vibes around the Emirates. 3-0, a very comfortable performance. We saw some nice goals. We saw Mendy get his first goal. We saw Eze get his first assist. We saw Gyökeres get another goal. We saw Big Ange suffer another loss at the Emirates. Good, it's good days, man. Happy days. Yeah, it is a good time to be an Arsenal fan at the minute, and I think, you know, like you ran through some of those stats there, and I just feel like the biggest takeaway out of all of that is the defensive stats at the moment, which I feel like is really a positive sign of potentially us going and doing something, going on to win something this season.
Yeah.
Because we're just really not conceding that many goals. Touch wood. Hopefully we don't suddenly just concede 3 as the way to City, not the home to City on the weekend. Sorry. But yeah, I feel like the defense has been such a standout in the team so far. Timber, Mascara, who I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Yes, we are definitely going to be talking about Christian Mascara.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just very happy with what I'm seeing from Arsenal at the minute. Saying that, yesterday's game, was it the best? No. But overall, seeing Arsenal get 3 points away in the Champions League, I don't really care how it gets done. I think there was a point in the game where I was a bit nervous and I thought, oh, like, we're going to score a goal. But again, this is where it comes down to having a squad. We say it all the time, like that you have to have a squad in order to win a major trophy. And Arsenal haven't really had that, I think, up until this season. Last season, we were spread so thin. We had proper injuries and we simply didn't have the replacements, and we suffered as a result of that. So to have big players out like Saka, Odegaard, Saliba, Havertz, and to still have the squad we have.
You've got Jesus as well. And White.
Sorry.
No, I'll let you off this time, Ella. Just this once.
The big boys. Not that Ben White and Jesus aren't part of that, but you know, Saka, Odegaard, and Saliba are probably the biggest 3 losses. Havertz is still a huge loss, and we are still a Gyökeres injury away from being back at Marino up top. But
right, okay, look, I'm gonna, seeing as you've brought that up, that's a really interesting point, because that was something I said yesterday at the game when I was watching it. I thought, and obviously the head clash, let's talk about that. That head clash was nasty, and if there was anyone on the pitch that you would not want to stick the nut on you, that is Big Gabby. That geezer is an absolute animal. He's a unit. And literally, he jumped up and smashed his head straight into the back of Gyökeres's. And it must have been a 2-inch gash. It looked deep. I've seen those before, and it looked nasty. And obviously, after that, he just wasn't the same player. I think before he looked lively. He was sharp, and There was one chance he had, which I would have liked to have seen him cut inside with the ball, which Thierry Henry spoke about at half time. And I think, listen, he makes a valid point because that's Thierry Henry's position, and no one can really argue with him because Geezer, I certainly wouldn't, because he knows a hell of a lot more about football than I do, and he's obviously played it at a higher level. And he's a lot more decorated, and he's an absolute legend, probably one of my favourite players of all time. So he makes a valid point, but Gyökeres is obviously still, does he have the pace and does he have the ability? And that's how you learn, right? But that head injury was a worry. But we do have, which I saw again glimpses of last night, and I think people forget this, is for me, Gabriel Martinelli is a 9, okay? Because he loves, But I'll tell you why, because he loves running onto defences, and he loves that ball that gets played through the middle over the top, and he runs onto it. And a lot of times he has the pace. He's a fast guy. He's got the pace to beat his player. I certainly wouldn't want him running at me. And his finishing in those situations generally is better than sometimes when he runs into dead ends. But last night, I thought he was phenomenal when he came on, with those 2 chances. He's been on the pitch 36 seconds, the ball's in the back of net. Some people are like, oh, that finish could have been better, and, stuff.
Who cares? But for me,
I couldn't care. It's like this winning ugly, the title of this show is Winning Ugly. Who cares? Do I care? No, I don't. At the end of the day, 3 points are 3 points. It's lovely to watch champagne football. Of course it is. That's the idea. That's the objective. But, we can't always have that. And if we're not conceding goals and we're putting goals in the back of people's nets and we're getting points on the boards, that is all I'm really bothered about, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, and I also feel like, a lot of people are saying that, Athletic Club are not a very good side. I don't think they've started the best in La Liga. Someone will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I listen, any team that's in the Champions League, you can't underestimate, I think. I know there are some teams that are better than others, and some teams you expect to win games more than others. But if someone's in the Champions League, that means that this is the best of the best. So any away day in the Champions League, it's never going to be a guaranteed smashing or a guaranteed 3 points. It just isn't. Even if it's the best team playing one of the worst teams in the competition, it's still never a guarantee. You might expect a result, but they played really well yesterday, Athletic Club. I thought really, really well, particularly in the first half. Arsenal didn't really look in the game. I know there were a couple moments, but maybe half chances almost. And they were dominating. I mean, it's a serious stadium, a serious fan base. It was not an easy game.
Yeah, do you know what, Ellie? You make some really good points there. And for us, we were in the studio on a watch-along, and obviously you've been on plenty of those. And the thing with watch-alongs is what people, if people have watched us watching them, is I don't know if people know, but we have no sound in there. We're literally talking.
Weird.
As you're watching a game with absolutely zero sound. There's no atmosphere. There's no commentary. You're watching the game with people, and you're commenting on the game based purely on what you see. No no sort of interactive feeling, no sensory feeling, as it were. So that when I saw when the teams came out, obviously the flags were being all the shirts around their heads, as they do in Spain.
Yeah.
I know Real Madrid do a version of that with the white flags when a player's not playing well. And, it looked like a cauldron. It's a 53,000 seat stadium. It's a raucous atmosphere. It's well known across European football for being a very tough place to go. And the Basque region of Bilbao is not a nice place. If anyone's been to that place, no disrespect to it. But there are some, like a lot of places in the world, but there are certainly some places that you might not fancy going to, might not be the most appealing places, shall we say. So, take that into the football stadium in a very, very highly competitive atmosphere and environment. You then have a situation where, this stuff intimidates. It can intimidate teams. And I think for the first 15 minutes of that game, we were slightly, the door was slightly ajar. We were slightly off pace. I know Declan Rice was, which is very, very unusual for him. He's usually a consummate performer at a very high level, and it was it was a tight game. I mean, look, the statistics from the game do prove that. They had, we each had 11 shots. They had 2 shots on target. We had 6. 2 of them were in the back of the net. They had 38% possession. We had 62. They had 303 passes to our 409. 490. Completed passes, 409 for us, 223 for them. Touches in an opposition box, 25 to our 25 to their 23, which shows the closeness of it. 2 corners each. They conceded 18 fouls. We conceded 15. And there was there were 4 yellow cards in the game, 3 for us, 1 for them. So, it shows what to me that reads the story of the game. And for 65 minutes, they did press us. There were times that people say, "Oh, was it? It was quite boring," or, there was not in it. But I think their midfield pressed us really well.
Yeah, I think for the majority of the first half, I feel like they were winning that midfield battle. And I was reading a lot after the game, and everyone was saying that they expected Athletic Club to start in the way that they did, with that fast pace and coming at Arsenal, which is exactly what happened. And it's almost like Arsenal were a little bit shaken. So they almost didn't expect that Athletic Club were going to come out and play like that. And we couldn't really get onto the ball and didn't have a lot of possession early on. But we kind of just had to sit into the game a little bit. And as we've said already, the substitutes were the difference. And how many times last season were we screaming for someone to come off of the bench and actually change the game, where it was, we're drawing or we're losing and we have to just change something. And now, like we've been saying, I know Martinelli and Trossard have been in a lot of conversations recently regarding Arsenal. And, I've said I personally don't think that Martinelli is good enough to be starting on the left for Arsenal, but my God, is he a good substitute? And that's the quality you want to have on your bench. He may not be good enough to start, but you have to have players like that can come off the bench and can score goals. Let's not forget he scored goals in big games. He scored a goal against Man City at home a couple of seasons ago. He scored at the Bernabeu last season, and the goal we saw yesterday was like a retro Martinelli goal. And it's almost like he's playing with a newfound confidence or belief in himself, because that Martinelli that we saw yesterday for, 25 odd minutes or whatever, that's all we've wanted for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Even for that second goal, for Trossard's goal, he beat his man and then put the ball in. And I was like, oh my God, Martinelli's actually just taken on his man and not cutting in the inside.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's the combination of Trossard. What I loved about Trossard is, obviously there was a period of time where, especially last season, where he was being played. He was the starter, and I think he gets quite comfortable in that role, if that makes sense. But when we bought him, he came on, and the amount of games he's impacted are phenomenal. And he's come in and he's scored, late winners. On Saturday against Forest, we brought him on, and he brings in that perfect little dink, that pass that comes through, that almost pitching wedge-esque dink pass over, which Zubimendi heads into the top corner, which was a fantastic goal. And then yet again, last night we see Trossard with a great play through to put it on a plate for Martinelli, and then Martinelli has to do some sort of trickery to get the ball. You see he's sort of juggling it with his feet to get it past the defender so that he can then run on to goal and finish it. Was it the prettiest finish? No, the keeper should have done better, yes, but it's in the back of the net. And like you say, that second goal down the left hand side, he beats his man, he cuts inside, he lays the ball off. And I love Trossard. You see that little leg movement that he did, that little wiggle of his leg before he kicks it, and he sort of wiggles his leg around. If you haven't seen it, watch it again, and then dinks it in, and it sort of hits the post and goes in, and it goes, and it's one of those funny goals that is that ball actually in the back of the net? It was like, was this actually in the back of the net? And and then it was, and it's 2-0. You're like, obviously at that time, 87 minutes, the game's basically done, and then they tried to pull it back for the foul, Zubimendi. And I thought,
never.
I just
Never.
I thought no. And again, it's games it's goals like that. That's what you want. Not a bad result, and to bring those two players off the bench at that time of the game and to make an impact, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I just think it's genuinely such a luxury now to watch football and have like a full squad. And I just feel like as Arsenal fans, we're not used to seeing that. And to have Martinelli and Trossard both come off in like the 70th minute, you're like, oh my God, like, go on then. Because they both offer something very different. The 70th minute, the fullback's tired, and you have Martinelli. Like, they look to the touchline, and Martinelli's coming on. They're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a long day.
And Ella, don't forget, you've still got Dalman and Wanyeri sitting on the bench as well. So there's other options there. And this is the point that you made earlier on, that there's no White, there's no Saliba, there's no Odegaard, there's no Jesus, there's no Havertz. I think if we get to a point, if this ever happens, how are you going to get all these players on the bench? Because it was like we saw last night. It was great to see Hincapié. I think Hincapié is going to be a fantastic player for us, by the way. I really do.
Yeah.
There's something about the look of this guy that he just looks a bit, let's say, dangerous. He looks like another tough player.
Serious.
Like you see what happened with Timber last night, where they wrestled him to the floor. Do you see that one way? Wrestled him one way and wrestled him the other. Most players, when you wrestle them that one way, they go down. But it took for him to throw him the other way for him to go down. And there wasn't any messing around with Timber. It was like, listen, don't be manhandling me here, mate. Like, I'm not here to be messed around with. And I tell you what, someone like Hincapié just looks like the sort of guy. He just doesn't. You need those sorts of guys in your team. Do you remember, like, obviously with Laurent, when Laurent played for Arsenal, he was just another no-nonsense guy that was just tough. A tough player that would just stick the boot in. And you need those players in your side, especially when you're going away in games like this.
I have seen the conversation online of people saying that when all the players come back and everyone's fit, like, he's actually going to have a hard time selecting the bench, because we've actually just got so many players. Like, we're going to have players that don't make the match day squad, where we're thinking could easily be on the bench. Like, that's the situation we're in now.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, get your super chats in. Let us know. We'll read them out and let us know. I want to know your thoughts and opinions on one, last night's game, and two, the players, how they performed. And speaking of performance, and I've been waiting to come to this player, because this is a player that really is taking my fancy as well. I'm really starting to rate this guy. We need to have a serious conversation, Ella. Right, about Christian Mascara. Okay, this guy, 13 million quid from Valencia, and all the other fans are going, oh, well, he's not. And I've heard a few, actually. I've heard a few pundits that say, yeah, he's all right. He's part of a side that's now produced, I think, the second clean sheet in a row. Obviously, the free kick, you couldn't do much about that. But we haven't conceded all season a goal in open play. And this is a huge statement as well. At the moment, how it stands, I get players can drop form, and I'm not saying he's a finished article. But based on what I've seen, if Saliba was out for if they turn around and said, oh, he's got an injury and he's out for another 3 weeks or so, I wouldn't have my head in my hands like I have in previous seasons. Going into games like this last night, without Odegaard, without Saka, without White, without Havertz, without Jesus, we would have been like, who are we going to put on the pitch? Who is going to play? And we would have leaked goals. We would have had sort of, I say, a makeshift defence. It's not a makeshift because they're professional players. And it really poses the question that now this squad depth, even to the point where, when's Hincapié going to get a run out? And what about Miles Lewis-Skelly?
I know. It's very rare that a player like Saliba gets injured and someone else comes in and takes his place, and you actually don't feel nervous about it. Because Marty, we were sat together on the watch along for the Liverpool game when Saliba got injured, and I actually did have my head in my hands. I was like, oh my God, this is worst case scenario. Like 5 minutes into the Liverpool game,
There was a serious meltdown. I was at the watch along with you, and everyone in that room. There must have been 60 people. By the way, speaking of watch alongs, guys, this Sunday for the Arsenal Man City game, AFTV have a watch along at Box Park in Croydon. So make sure to check out the watch along online. It's going to be fantastic. These watch alongs are a great crack. The one last night, Ella will be there as well. Cecil will be hosting it. It's going to be a fantastic event. On that note of that, and it's just he went down in that, and everyone, 60 people in that room, literally had their head in their hands, and they were like, "Oh no,
disastrous."
It was Saliba's out. Why did he play him? Why did he put him on the pitch? If he had an ankle knock, now he's not going to be fit for the what was it? The next game after. It was a Forest game, wasn't it? No. Was
it not Leeds?
No, Leeds was before.
Oh my God, I've already lost track. It must have been. We must have had. Did we have? Yeah, it must have been then. God. Marty, it feels like there was a game in between that. We've already lost track. It's been 4 games in the Premier League.
There's 4 Premier League games. The first up, we were
United.
Yes.
Leeds,
Liverpool, and Forest. Yeah, it's like no, that was it. If he's out for the City game, sorry, because City's on Sunday. If he's out for the City game, what he's gone down. It's going to be a long-term injury. That's it. The season's over already. People were legitimately saying that in there, and now Christian Mascara has come in, and this guy. Last night was phenomenal. On Saturday, he was phenomenal against Nottingham Forest. There was where I sit at the Emirates, close to the dugout. I can't sometimes see over by the north bank, the clock end. It's the clock end that I can't see over to by the penalty area. And I watched it again. I rewatched the game on TV afterwards, just if there was anything that I missed. And there was a tackle that Timber made a mistake, and he literally reaches out his leg like an octopus and just grabs the ball and just it clears the danger.
I think it's also crazy in today's market when players are going for all sorts of money, and the inflation in the transfer market is crazy with the money that clubs are getting for players. The fact that we actually managed to get him for 13 million might go down as one of the best bits of business that we've ever done. Because
do you think ever done?
Well, potentially yes. Because we could lose Saliba or Gabriel in the next 2-3 years. Do you think we could? Yeah.
I think. Look, I think you're right there. The Saliba. If we don't win anything this season, Saliba, the Real Madrid thing could come knocking.
It's a possibility. It is a possibility.
They weren't fantastic at the back last night. I mean, they spent 50 million quid on Dean Huijsen, and he wasn't amazing last night. But
well, it seems like they're going to get Konate on a free next summer. But I still wouldn't be surprised if they go back in for Saliba. So it's essentially Mascara could be one of the starting centre backs in like 2 seasons time if one of them goes. So and I just think from coming on 21 years old from Valencia, obviously yes, Valencia is no crap team, it's proper La Liga club, but he's so young to come to the Premier League and come on at Anfield in the high pressured situation after Saliba has just come off, and you're thinking, oh my God, like these are the boots I have to fill. It's a lot of pressure, and he's genuinely looked so composed.
And this is an Arsenal team that have let in 18 goals in 25 Champions League games under Mikel Arteta, and this is their 11th clean sheet. And speaking of clean sheets, David Ray has played 101 games for Arsenal and kept 43 clean sheets.
That is genuinely an incredible statistic.
I said this to someone the other day. I think it was actually Leicester down the watch along. And I said, you do know that he could be coming in for clean sheet records? And they were like, oh, it's only 3 seasons in. Oh, he'd have to play another 6-7 seasons. But the reality is, if we keep hold of him for 6-7 seasons, he could easily clock those up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he will stay for 6 seasons, but he's 30.
I know, it's the Real Madrid thing, isn't it? Again, with another Spanish
goalkeeper. What age do goalkeepers tend to retire?
It depends. I mean, I think Jean-Luigi Buffon played till he was 42.
Oh wow, okay.
Seaman played till he was 39. Lehman played till he was 38, I think.
Well, based off of that, Martin, he could stay for another 6 seasons. Eh?
Goalkeepers do finish later generally. It's a thing. You know, a goalkeeper will be in his prime generally between the age of 30, like prime 30 to 35, whereas a player will generally be in their prime between the age of 25 to 30. It's the position and the toll it takes on your body naturally, but it's also to do with the mentality, the strength of mentality, being older, and the decision making, and just being around longer. So
I genuinely think we are seeing the best of David Raya, and it's so funny because you think back to when he was signed and so many question marks, buying another goalkeeper when Aaron Ramsdale, I think he'd just come off the back of being in the team of the season, and was very popular amongst the Arsenal fans.
He was a fan favourite, Ella.
He really ruffled the feathers by signing David Raya, but it just goes to show that he knew exactly what he was doing. Because, as much as I love Aaron Ramsdale, and I will always have a special place for him because he was such a character.
Will you?
Yeah, I will. I don't think he did much wrong.
Okay, really?
Listen, like I was about to say, I know that he had the mistake in him, and that's why David Raya was signed, because he's the slightly more full package. And I know Ramsdale slipped up a few times, but I feel like you're forgetting. I feel like you're forgetting that Ramsdale was good.
Listen, Ramsdale made some good saves, so that's what you pay a goalkeeper to. And it's funny you go on to this, and I'll clear this up. So when Raya came to the club, obviously goalkeeping's my thing. When Raya came to the club, I welcomed it because he was the best goalkeeper in the Premier League that season at Brentford. And obviously being in goal for Brentford is completely different from being in goal from Arsenal, because at Brentford you're going to face a lot more, you 50% easily more shots than you would at Arsenal, because of the back four you've got in front of you and the style of football that's played. Now, Ramsdale for me cost us the league. Listen, I respect him. I understand he's a fan favourite, but he cost us the league in many situations with a lot of his mistakes. And it's with top goalkeepers, it's how they recover from those mistakes and how quickly they recover from those mistakes. And do you remember when Raya was still on loan that season, and the Brentford game, Ramsdale had to play at the end of the game? Yeah, at the end of the game when all the players came round him.
Oh, I thought you were talking about, was it not the Brentford game that he came on and then kind of scored the own goal? Was it, or basically made that mistake? Was that not against Brentford?
No, he did that against Southampton when he played the ball out. There were quite a few games where he made a few errors, but the Brentford game, I think he managed to keep a clean sheet, or he got through it without making any mistakes. And at the end of it, I remember all the players going up to him and hugging him. He was relieved to have got through the game. And it was just like, that is not the sign of a top quality goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong, he makes outstanding saves. It's the mentality thing that I question with him.
Well, listen, it is weird because I'm sure you've heard this as well. When he went on, I don't know if it was a podcast or whether it was on Sky or TNT, and he basically said I struggle to concentrate for 90 minutes. And I'm like, what do you mean you struggle to concentrate for 90 minutes? He must be standing in goal, looking at the sky.
This is what I mean. And any top goalkeeper knows it's about concentration.
And you have to be. The game can change like that.
You literally, especially playing for a club like Arsenal, you might have nothing to do for 92 minutes. Then in the 93rd minute, there's a lapse of concentration from our midfield or defence, and bang, you've got to keep the game so that we're winning it or drawing or make sure that we don't lose it. I just don't think he was that. He's relegated a couple of teams as well in Sheffield United and Southampton. When he went to Southampton, I said they're going down, and they spent 35 million quid on him. You spend 35 million quid on him. Don't forget, Donnarumma was just bought for 40. So, right.
Yeah, listen, in hindsight, I'm so glad we did get David Raya, because he looks like is he the best goalkeeper in the league right now? I think he's kind of
Raya.
Yeah.
100%. And do you know why I say that? It's based on clean sheets. And I've had this argument with a few people, right? And they say, listen, stylistically, they're talking about, listen, Donnarumma's a fantastic goalkeeper. Now he's in the Premier League, top goalkeeper, one of the best in the world, without a doubt. And obviously, Alisson, there's levels. These guys are, they're up there. But for me, a goalkeeper is about clean sheets. It's about not conceding goals. Now, if your goalkeeper has more clean sheets than other goalkeepers, that means they're a better goalkeeper because they're not picking the ball out of the back of the net as much. And I understand there's different teams you play for, but when you're comparing an Alisson that's got Van Dijk and Konate in front of them, who are top level defenders, and there is a plethora of defenders in front of them that are, you know, adequate to win the league title, quite rightly so, they should be keeping more clean sheets, you know, if I'm honest with you. And defense is where the team starts. So that's definitely my logic to it. Manuel Neuer, you know, like let's take him for example at World Cup. As World Cups where he won the Golden Glove and he was hands down the best goalkeeper in the competition. And that's what the Golden Glove for. It's a trophy to celebrate the most clean sheets and generally, essentially, the best goalkeeper.
Well, you know what? Everyone says you can't win the league without a top goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And I feel like now I feel like we have that. I feel like you need a top goalkeeper, and I think you need a pretty good striker. And now I think we're in a position where we have both. So there's actually no reason why we can't go on and win either the league or the Champions League. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. There's so much competition. And you look at the Champions League, Liverpool, Chelsea, PSG, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City, like this Real Madrid, like there's so many teams in the Champions League that you could say they could win it or they should win it. The Premier League, you've got the same. We're in a position now where it's going to be, I think, very competitive in the top four, maybe the top three. But there's 3 or 4 teams that probably could go on and win it. So you know, we're up there. A lot of people are saying we have a good chance of winning the Champions League this season, and a lot of people are saying we're actually probably better favourites to win the Champions League than the Premier League, which is kind of crazy. But you know, maybe we're better at that kind of knockout football. I don't know.
Do you know what? I think the style of football suits us well, and I think how we set out against them. But you've got to think like this year round we are completely stacked. You know, defensively, midfield, the only, like you say, the only position is potentially number 9. But with that, we all know that Trossard can play as a false 9. Marino can, if he has to, play it. Not ideal, but I think, you know, Martinelli, I'd like to see maybe if Gyökeres is going to start getting hooked after 60. What I like to see actually is in those games, both of those games, and it's not because I'm super pro Arteta. What I see this season differently, that maybe the manager is getting slightly different right, is in against the Nottingham Forest. We were, I think, 2-0 up, and he hooks Gyökeres, gets him off. Is that correct? 2-0. I know that, or it might have been 3. But Gyökeres comes off and he plays Marino up there because he sees. Because obviously, ultimately, there's no point. You're 3-0 up or 2-0 up. And in that game yesterday, took Gyökeres off when he knew he was suffering. As soon as he had that, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's hooked at half time.
I thought the same.
I think in seasons before, it was like the subs were made on 65 minutes. I've been so many games waited, and he makes those subs on 75 or 80 minutes. And, you know, the Arsenal fan base isn't quiet, let's be honest. You know, I would, you know, I'm not saying it's from me, but I mean, the amount of stuff that I see online, and obviously do Arsenal football clubs see that whole, you know, world of social media? Of course they do. They pay people to go through that, essentially. So they will, you know, they would have seen that. And obviously it was an issue. I think, listen, Mikel Arteta doesn't probably need to be told that by any fans. He would have worked that out himself because he's a very, you know, astute guy. And obviously he's got the job for a reason. And seeing those substitutions and the correct substitutions, listen, if he gets it wrong, 100%, you know, it's on him, the team selection. And all of all the players that we've bought in. Imagine these 8 players that were bought in, like Christian Mascara. We bought him from Valencia for 13 million quid. We're thinking, yeah, decent defender, 13 million quid, he's cheap. And then he turned out to be another, you know, a Scotland Mustafi, or, you know, come on, give me some,
who played next to
Sebastian Scalacci, or what was the other one?
Who actually played next to Mustafi in that era? I can't even remember. It's just, I need to wipe that permanently from my memory. I think it was part. I think it was slightly past that. I can't remember, but let's just stick with Mustafi.
Yeah, and Schillaci and all of those sorts of guys. And there was another guy. That was a story Ray Parler brings up about with Martin Keown and Dennis Bergkamp, and they had a bet. But anyway, so that's another story about. I can't remember the guy's name, and he was absolutely terrible. And in those years where we used to get absolutely hammered by teams 4-5-1, but bringing Christian Mascara in like that, what a player! And he's now proving his worth massively.
Yeah, just to talk about because you were just talking about substitutions, and I had a quick point about it. I kind of wanted to see yesterday when he brought Eze off and brought Martinelli on. I actually kind of wanted to see him take Marino off, play Eze in that forward like Odegaard position, and then put Martinelli on the left.
Yeah,
which I just think, listen, Arsenal fans didn't want to see Martinelli start yesterday. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, because they didn't. Yeah,
they didn't. But I really do want to see Eze play in that midfield position whilst Odegaard is out. It's like, yeah, it's almost crying for it. Like, that's his best position.
Okay, that's a really good point, Ella. Right? Do you know what? You make a really good point on that. And that is, obviously Eze's played that position for Palace in and around that. But if you ask a lot of Palace fans, they will say that he drifts in from the left-hand side. He's one of those players that his touches and his link-up play is fantastic. Compared to a player like Madueke, who is giving the ball and he will beat your guy. He literally, in every situation, he is looking to beat his man. He's looking wherever he is on the pitch. Who was it? I think he was down the right-hand side with yesterday with, was it Marino? And he passed in the ball and I was like, nah, surely he's not going to take him on. And he took him on. And I was like, go on, the boy. And then, but with Eze, but what I really noticed yesterday, come back to the point, is the width. Okay, is there were so many times when Eze and Madueke were hugging the touch lines. Right now, that is very important because in many ways, sometimes when you sit in closer and you play more direct through the middle, like basically when you're hugging the touchlines, you're stretching a team. It's a thing in football. You're stretching a team, especially with players like that. You play it out wide into the channels, and then those players like Madueke can take on their guys and beat their guys, and that's where then you can come in through the middle. And what that does is opens up play for Gyökeres to run in through the middle, because if you're stretching their team out wide, and what you're doing with Madueke especially is already they're doubling up on him. So you're essentially, you'll keep hugging him on the touchline. You're pulling two players outside of the middle of the pitch. And the one thing that Bilbao were fantastic at doing last night was playing through the middle, and a level of intensity and pressing through their midfield. They were very good at that, I thought. And that's why it is important to hug the touchline. Yes, I do get that point. Seeing Eze through the middle with his silky play is great, but I understand the width on the touchlines as well.
I just think he went missing a little bit, and I thought the same in the first half against Forest. Like, I know he ended up getting an assist in that game, but I just think it's almost, for me, a bit of a waste of the player I think he is. Listen, do I think he can play on the left? Without a doubt, he can play on the left, but I just think it's not his strongest position. I know that the left is kind of where we need him to play at the moment because of the fact that Martinelli and Trossard haven't been seen as good enough to start in that position.
Yeah.
But when it's getting to that point in the game, and when it was at the 60th minute, I just think bring him into that position, because the midfield three we had yesterday, Zubimendi, Rice, and Marino, that's the same midfield three we saw against Liverpool, and I think there was a lot of disappointment for picking that three. And I personally also felt that midfield three is lacking a bit of creativity. Like you can start variations of that three, but I think
of course.
within that three, there has to be an Odegaard, an Eze, or a Wanyeri, or someone like that. So I was just a bit upset not to see him bring Eze in and let him play there.
So what do you do then, Ella? So let's reset the team out how you would with Eze playing in that role. Just don't worry about the back four. I just want to know from the midfield three and the front three, how you set that team out.
Well, listen, like, I don't have a problem with Eze starting on the left if that's what he wants to do, because I know we have Martinelli and Trossard, but I also think that there's a point tactically in the game where if you're seeing that Eze is being taken out of the game, bring him in, because he has so much, he offers so much, and that's.
And who do you put out on the left? But then who do you put out? So who do you change then?
I would have brought Martinelli on regardless yesterday. I would have
taken
Marino off, and I would have brought Eze into the midfield.
Right, cool. And then put Martinelli on the left-hand side.
Exactly.
And then that still gives you an opportunity that if Gyökeres goes off, you could put Martinelli in the 9. And then you can put
Trossard on, and
and then put Trossard on the left. Yeah. Look, that's I like that. I like that, definitely.
I just think there needs to be a little bit more creativity, and I know that Marino is a creative player. We've seen what he's able to do, but when we've seen those three play in midfield together, it just hasn't quite worked for me.
Do you not think it did? Do you not think it worked last night then?
Well, nothing really happened with those three.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Like in all fairness, it wasn't like we really saw them running the midfield. And let's not forget what number is on the back of Eze's shirt. Like, naturally, he is a 10. Like, he really is. That is his strongest position. And I believe that he can actually play in multiple positions. Yeah. But I just feel like when Odegaard is out of the squad, there's such an opportunity to give him a bit of a run in Odegaard's position. So I understand, what he did, but I just think
we have had Ella. Sorry to interrupt you. We have had a super chat come in. Thank you very much. Arsenal FC, not Arteta FC. You were here live on the watch along. Thank you very much, my man, for getting a super chat in. You're getting it, Ella. Yes, Arteta is a talent killer.
I don't know if he's a talent killer, but we have potentially seen. I kind of understand the point he's trying to make. I think he's making the point about playing Eze slightly out of position. Yeah. And I get that, but I also do think that we were buying Eze with some intention to play him on the left as well. So I think he obviously would have been aware of that. And naturally as well, like I don't hate seeing Eze on the left. We do see Eze kind of dribbling into the midfield a bit as well. Like he'll kind of play how he wants to play, even if he's on the left as well. But it's a little bit too early on to tell. Let's be honest. We need to see a bit more, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And Eze coming inside, we did see that a bit last night. I think he's trying to find his feet. I think his moment will come. I cannot wait to see that guy score his first Arsenal goal. I really can't. I know. He got his assist. Let's talk about that assist.
He was so close to scoring yesterday, Marty.
Oh, I know. And that was just literally, that was an absolutely phenomenal tackle, I thought, by the Bilbao defender.
Unbelievable.
Saw it. It was on a plate and you were just like, hit the ball. And then it just comes in, takes it. And, sometimes you see...
He just waited for it.
Yeah, and that was it. He waited for it, but kind of, I get that. I do understand that. Some people are like, no, he should just taken it. He should just shot, But I do get that point. You've got to be quick, but then also at the same time, if that was a fantastic piece of defending. So another super chat that's come in. So the Gunners Network, Eze should start over Odegaard when healthy.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Odegaard not stepping up as much as we would like and not contributing enough. There has been a slight lack of goals and assists, I think, recently. And from his position, we do need him to be a real creative mind in our team and to be sort of leading that creativity.
Yeah.
Listen, I love the fact that we've got Eze and we've got Ethan who provide competition to that position. And but this is what I'm saying, because Odegaard is out, and my initial thought would be get Eze in. It'll be interesting to see what he or who he plays where on Sunday. Is Odegaard going to be back?
Right.
If not, yeah, go on. I'll wait.
Look, Ella, I was literally,
I
was literally coming to that. That was going to be my next question. I was like,
sorry,
right,
I was just helping the segue into the next.
Segue. So I was literally just about to say to you, what is your starting 11? Sunday we have got Manchester City at home, 4:30 kickoff, Emirate, Super Sunday. It's going to be a big one. And like team selection wise, okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pick it out. Is I've heard that Saliba might be ready for that.
Yeah, he's straight back in. Saliba.
Really?
Yeah, it will be Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori.
Okay.
I imagine. Now I'm in two minds about this whole Eze thing. I've got myself into a bit of a pickle about I really want to
line this team up.
See him.
Let's go with the 3 and the 3. What are you doing? Who are you playing? Does
Martinelli deserve?
And by the way, anyone, sorry, before you go, while you're having this little tizzle you're in, if anyone out there's listening, any super chat, stick it in the super chat. What your team for Sunday would be? Arsenal versus Man City. I want to know, and why.
It's actually quite tough. I'm almost inclined to say a midfield 3 of Zubimendi, Rice, Eze, and then Martinelli, Gyökeres, and Madueke. But I don't think that is how he's going to line up. I'm desperate to see Eze play in the 10.
Zubimendi, Rice, Zubimendi, Eze, right, and then
Martinelli, Gyökeres, Madueke. But I don't think he'll line up like that. I just really want to see Eze play in that number 10.
Okay, what just to see how he does it in Arsenal shirt?
Just because that's his best position. That's where he'll get goals. I really believe that's where he'll thrive the most in that position. So I just think that's not how he will line up. By the way, I really don't think so. But
how do you think he's going to line up?
I think he'll line up. I think he might line up kind of basically the same as the Athletic Bilbao game, and I think the back 4 will be. I think Saliba will come in.
Do you think?
I think, yeah, and I think he'll play as a Gyökeres, Madueke if Gyökeres is all good, and then I could see him playing Marino, Rice, Zubimendi. I don't know what it is about. He doesn't really want to play Nwaneri. He's slightly hesitant to start Nwaneri. I don't know if you've noticed that. We saw that last season a bit when Odegaard was injured.
No, but this season against Forest, he brought Nwaneri straight on.
Well, he brought him on, but in terms of being named in the starting 11, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think. Look, I think for the Forest thing, right? I do get it. The Forest game, Odegaard, obviously, it was a reoccurrence of the injury. You weren't to know. He went down, he went high in the air, and he landed on it. I wouldn't have wanted to have landed on my shoulder like that, if I'm honest with you. And then obviously he makes a decision, he puts him on, and he does what he has to do. So fair play. The Champions League game in Spain, in Bilbao, I get Marino. Why? He's Spanish. He's played there plenty of times.
Fair point. It's actually
he's played at the stadium. He knows what to expect.
Yeah,
he's experienced it. And obviously, Ethan Nwaneri needs to experience it 100%. But going there and experiencing these nights and potentially coming on would, I think, be a better way of doing it. He's a lot younger. Marino's a lot more used to the these sorts of games. It is a big occasion. It's a huge game.
It is a big occasion.
Like you said earlier on in this game, and funnily enough, it was something that I said. I was talking to Laurie. Big up to Laurie as well, by the way, on the watch along about, and he was like, they weren't good, and I was like, any team in the Champions League, it's on the AFTV, clipped it up actually. And I said any team in the Champions League is good, and he went, yeah, they're not, and I was like, no. The idea of the competition is, everyone is worth their salt, because you have to be good. You have to either finish in a top 4, a top 3, a top 2, or win something to be in the Champions League. It's called the Champions League for a reason. It's the best in Europe that all face each other and play. Don't get me wrong, there are some teams at the end of it that, obviously fall off and don't end up being that good. But generally, every team that gets into it is good on merit. And that's why you don't get into the Champions League because you play terrible football. You might come up against teams like your Arsenals, your Real Madrids, your Barcelonas, that, you end up playing them and playing better teams than yourself, and you can't get the results. But I believe, that competition, for me, it's one of the highest grades of competition. Some more so instead of the World Cup, because with the World Cup, you kind of run with what you've got in your country. But whereas obviously club football in the Champions League, teams go out and purchase these players, and these are specific players they want. You can go and basically get who you want, as long as you have the available funds and, be the means to do it, and see you can put them all together because you've got the correct infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Mourinho conversation, it's evident that Arteta has a lot of trust in Mourinho, and he's proved it on an international and club level. And so I understand that Wanyeri is young and is slightly more inexperienced, but I do still think that he deserves to be playing slightly more, and I just feel like Arteta doesn't quite trust him. Now, we don't really know why that is. There might be something going on behind.
Do you think there is now?
We don't know.
There could be. I get it,
but what I do see a lot when Ethan comes on, which I don't particularly like, is I think his work rate is quite poor in that position, just because, and maybe it's unfair because I'm almost comparing it to when we see Odegaard, and his work rate is constantly running, constantly chasing things down, whereas Ethan doesn't quite do that yet. I'm sure he'll kind of grow into that position. But maybe Arteta looks at that and goes, I don't like that. I need to see you running, chasing after things, pressing high. And I just think Mourinho is all round solid, works extremely hard, and will always offer something quite composed.
Definitely. No, I definitely. It's going to be interesting. I think the City game, roll on to that. The City game is going to be a big test coming up at the weekend. Also, City are playing tomorrow night in the Champions League, so we've got essentially 2 nights on them rest-wise, which is only going to be a good thing. And they play tomorrow night, and I think Sunday's going to be interesting. This will be a game dependent on how we do against them, which could sort of, I say, define our season. How do you see it going?
I see this as a must-win game, and to be honest, I see that for every single home game this season. And by saying that, I'm not undermining Manchester City as a club and saying this is a game we'll win easy. Absolutely not. This is going to be one of the toughest home fixtures we'll have all season. But I genuinely think that we need to win every single home game that we have. I see us winning. I think it will be very fine margins. I don't think there's going to be a lot in it. I think City are a top side, and I know they started off the season a bit iffy. They lost to Spurs, and then they did lose to Brighton, didn't they? Right. Mm-hmm. So they've had a couple losses off the bounce. I know they've also had a couple wins as well, but I just think at home the home advantage is completely true. There is home advantage at the Emirates in front of the Arsenal fans. And, we've also now gotten past the point of showing that we can beat Man City at home. I know a couple seasons ago, it was almost incomparable because we hadn't done it in so long. But now we've proved it. We've shown it. We can beat them at home all we want. And
we all know what happened last year.
Where we can never forget.
That was a great result.
And that's it. And no one could have expected that result. No one. They're a team that we can go at them, I think, and we should beat them. We should.
Listen,
maybe that's a naive thing to say, but I think
no. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm completely with you on that. I really rate all the points you're saying. We're at home It's our place. You know, these games are always an absolutely crazy atmosphere. I personally cannot wait to be there on Sunday. You know, it's game. Listen, I love every game. I mean, I think you know that. You know, I couldn't wait to get to the Nottingham Forest game. 12:30 kickoff after 2 weeks of international football, which, you know, listen, it's football. It's better than nothing, but Premier League football and watching Arsenal, and especially being fortunate enough to get to the Emirates and experience the atmosphere, you know, and watch top quality football there. And this, I would imagine, is going to be a very similar. You've got the, you know, hopefully Gyökeres is fit. You've got the Gyökeres versus Haaland. You've got a bit of needle there because, you know, Gyökeres, don't forget, put a hat trick against City in the Champions League. I think it was last season. You've got the Haaland and Miles Lewis-Skelly celebration mocking. You've also got the beef between Gabriel and Haaland, and also Haaland and Mikel Arteta.
It's just Haaland and everyone. It's just Haaland
and then you've obviously got the, you know, once I was the master, now I am the learner. Pep with Arteta, you know, and that's a real thing as well. So it's you know, is Arteta fully turning into the master, and has he surpassed the master? And, you know, because once he was Pep's apprentice, and listen, stylistically, we all know that they're very sort of similar. I think they still have some sort of a relationship. It sounds weird, but no,
I think they're super close.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting game how they set out. I think, you know, against Manchester United, I watched that game on Sunday, and Manchester United made them look good. Manchester United's midfield was wide open. They're still playing this 3-4-3, which is absolute, like, suicide football. You're just asking for it. It's like Ange ball, basically. And, you know, and they're all over the park. And but City had a few chances, which I think they should have put in the back of the net. And,
Haaland could have had a few more.
Yeah, I think Haaland could have had 2 more, and Rinders should have had another one as well. And that game could have been 6. And I understand we went to Old Trafford and we only beat them 1-0, but we were terrible on that. They're absolutely diabolical. So it's a very interesting game to see which Manchester City side turn up. We're not conceding goals, we're scoring goals, and we haven't conceded from open play. So are they going to be locking up and sticking Haaland in their back pocket? Or are they, you know, are we going to, you know, concede a couple of goals from open play? Are we going to struggle to score? Will that switch with Eze be made? Who knows?
Yeah, it will be a really interesting game. I mean, I just think, you know, we look at obviously the ambition to win the league, and in these sorts of games when you're playing teams that you're going to be competing with for the Premier League title, you know, City, Liverpool, Chelsea are up there for me. You just have to win these games. You have to, you know, we have to take these 3 points away from them, because ultimately I think it could come down to fine margins. So when you're at home to City, to Liverpool, to Chelsea, you just have to get 3 points. That's my mindset this season. Not going to be easy in the slightest. I don't care how we win on Sunday. 1-0 corner, I don't care at all. It just has to be 3 points.
So, quick score prediction before we jump off and end this live.
2-1 Arsenal. I'm going to
go 3-1. I predict that Haaland's going to score the first goal in open play against us. I hate to say it, but you know,
it's inevitable, isn't it?
No, well, maybe
Haaland,
not. But
Haaland scoring at the Emirates is.
Well, he does have form for it. Let's be honest. But look, guys, thank you very much for tuning in to the live. Really appreciated. And thank you very much for super chats. Thank you for everyone that put their chats in the chat. And look, guys, AFTV have got some fantastic content coming up. Myself will be on the Invincibles podcast with Lee and Robbie, which will probably be released tomorrow. There's some fantastic content from the guys who've been out in Bilbao covering the Bilbao game. And there is a watch along which Ella will be on. So if you want to catch up with Ella and see Ella and her absolutely fantastic footballing brain, listen, these watch alongs are crazy. So listen, guys, please get involved with the content.
Marty, just before we wrap up, thank you for hosting as well. It's been
Oh,
very,
thank
very
you.
good as always.
Thank you very much. You say the nicest things. You really do. Most appreciated. So, yeah, no, guys, yeah, check all that out. And I hope you've enjoyed tonight. Let us know in the comments what you thought. So I've been Marty. This has been Ella from the Marty Ella Show. Please, guys, stay safe. Marty signing out.
GFN Soccer TV, with all your favourite shows in one place, is now live in the UK with Samsung TV Plus.